What is this?
It's the tabs of you and Robert.
You're charging me this?
Only if you win. If you don't win, you don't pay. I'm not out to cheat anybody.
The whole story takes place on the ballroom floor in this marathon dance that people would sign up for because if they could last long enough, they'd get money or a prize.
Prize of 1,500 silver dollars.
So I asked Red Buttons, there was a period of time in the film where he was my dancing partner, and I asked him, let's get Sidney Pollack, the director, to let us go on the set for 3 days and dance without stopping. And we did. And you know, this was the place that I was at. I want to really get into it. I want to really see what it's like. And you hallucinate after 3 days.
Come on, you salty old bastard. Where's the fight? Come on. Come on. Damn it, hang on to me. I'm tired of losing.
But this was the kind of passion about acting you hadn't really had before.
That's right. And it was interesting for me, too, because my mother killed herself. And my character, Gloria, in the movie, she doesn't kill herself. She asks Michael Sarrazin to shoot her. And I wanted to go there. I wanted to know what that felt like. To feel, as my mother wrote in her suicide note, this is the best way out. And that was, I don't know, I enjoyed having to go there, even though it was awful.
What are you going to do now? Try the movies again?
No. I'd never make it. And maybe it wouldn't make no difference even if I did. Maybe it's just the whole damn world is like central casting. They got it all rigged before you ever show up.
I know just what you mean.
Do you?
And I remember the first day, Norma Jewison, who is a wonderful man and still the only director who can entertain you and make a social comment at the same time. And he said, he chews gum. I said, oh, come on, Norm. That's the biggest cliche in the world. What do you mean? He said, well, try it. So it became a challenge. And I realized I could indicate his thought process. He ain't excited. Somebody says something, that stops him. Then you got the other two when he's thinking. So I learned how to use it.
Got a name, boy? Virgil Tibbs. Virgil. Well, I don't think we're going to have any trouble, are we, Virgil? No trouble at all.
What are your impressions of Audrey?
I loved her. One of my impressions, I knew her from movies before we worked together. I was, you know, my chin used to find its way down here when we saw each other, and I got to work with her, and she was wonderful and sweet and friendly and kind and giving and intimate. And the sound of her voice was enough to send you, you know, the way she spoke. It was just wonderful. I never understood dubbing her voice as a singer. I loved the way she sounded.
But you didn't dub her.
We didn't dub her voice. That's what I say.
My Fair Lady, they did.
They did.
Right.
I could cry salty tears. Where have I been all these years? Is it fun, or should I run? How long has this been going on?
We had only one disagreement, which I've told this story before. In Funny Face, she wore a black outfit, black shoes, black pants, black top, and I said, and white socks. She said, oh no, I can't wear white socks. It ruins the line. And I said, no, Audrey, you have to wear white socks. And she said, I'm not going to wear white socks. No, I said, Audrey, you have to wear. And this argument went on for days and days. And we made a test with her in the black with the white socks and the black with black socks. And came the moment of shooting. And I just went into her dressing room and said, Audrey, you have to wear the white socks. And she said, all right. And she cried. She felt it was a destructive element. And she did this long sequence in the white socks. A few days later, I got a letter from her saying, Dear Stanley, I saw it. You were right about the socks. She was wonderful. She did it. She didn't want to do it, but she gave in to doing what she felt she had to do.
There's all kinds of makeups that we do as makeup artists, especially effects makeup artists like myself, and many times people think, if you do an alien or a monster, that it's going to be really hard, and it is. But what is much harder are the human kind of makeups. A progressive age movie is very difficult to do because people recognize that more. You see old people every day. You don't see monsters every day. Many times it's not just making an actor age the way they would age, but it's more make them age the way the character would age. So, you really, you have to take all that into consideration.
A woman is beautiful if she has 8 hours sleep and goes to the beauty parlor every day. And bone structure has a lot to do with it, too.
In Mr. Skeffington, there's quite an amazing transformation of her going from a young woman to an old, decrepit, and ill woman. And it's done without appliances, without rubber pieces. And frankly, I was quite impressed by the progression. For the old age and ill stuff, they did a process called the old age stipple. It's really an amazing technique, and we're going to demonstrate it. But it has to be on a person with the right kind of skin to begin with. I was so excited as a youngster when I found a formula to how to make latex stipple in this book. And so I mixed this stuff up, and I put it on my 15-year-old face, and it didn't do anything, Now, my 55-year-old face, it works great, It's like the skin needs to be a little looser and stuff, but it's a really cool technique. I'm here with Kazu, and Kazu's putting old age stipple on me, and I think it got the name because of the technique that you apply it. You stipple it on with a sponge, like stipple, stipple, stipple. Basically, you stretch the actor's skin, stipple on with a sponge this latex material, dry it in a stretched position, and when you release the stretching, it forms these kind of natural wrinkles. It forces the skin to fold and wrinkle. It's basically a latex base that we add gelatin and some talc and some dye to. When you look in the mirror and you see yourself looking like this, I'm sure it helps actors a lot feel much, much older. I'm going to feel older as we go on. Let's keep going. It's kind of a strange feeling to have stipple on your skin. It's like, it almost feels like your skin is dead because you lose a little of the feeling of the touch of your hand on it. Okay, so now we're finished with the stipple part. And now Kazu's going to start the painting process. Kazu here is the greatest makeup artist around. He, besides being an amazing artist, just has a real love for the craft, and he's the future of makeup. Okay, so right now Kazu is kind of shading under my cheekbones and my nasolabial folds to kind of bring out the forms a little bit. This is kind of like a highlight and shadow makeup, at this point just the shadow, but it's accentuating the forms. When you're the makeup artist and you're doing a makeup and you have 3 hours, you can't believe how quick that time is disappearing. When you're the actor in the chair, it's a whole different experience. The second hand hardly moves and you're going, what is he doing? Why is it taking so long? So I think every makeup artist should have that experience of being in the chair. Are we done? See, I'm trying to be like a real actor. Is it done? This looks good enough to me. Don't you think this looks good enough?
No.
So right now Kazu's preparing to paint some little teeny veins on my face. using, Kazu?
Acrylic color.
Yes, that's what I thought. A little acrylic color to add little age spots and red areas and all sorts of fun little things that happen to old people's faces. So I just stuck in some crazy teeth here. Okay. Grab me that big mustache, let's look at it. Okay. You got any spare change? Kazu. Oh, I'm more Wild West now. Yeah. Well, you see a couple hours of makeup and nice-looking 55-year-old man turns into this. I didn't know we were going this direction, Kazu, did you? It was like, the teeth changed the whole thing in a stupid mustache.
One of the great American art forms is the American movie musical. We did it better than anybody.
Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face.
Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell.
Everywhere crime in America, organized crime in America, terrible time in America.
You forget I'm in America.
These are great songs, these are great visuals, these are great performers. These movies, more often than not, will at least make you laugh or smile.
When there's a shine on your shoe, there's a melody in your heart. What a wonderful way to start the day.
The artists that would perform in these movie musicals had incredible discipline and incredible training. And you were not allowed to be in a movie musical unless you could really sing and you could really dance and you could really act.
With Astaire and Ginger Rogers, Kelly and Donald O'Connor and Miller, and these were the best of the best of the best.
It's too darn hot.
Not only are you talking about extraordinary performers, but they were perfectionists. Astaire in particular was known to be just grueling on himself and on his dance partners and his choreographers.
When I think about Fred, I have many images in my head. One of them is his use of props. And the props were very natural to him, a natural extension of the story or a natural extension of the character.
I'm just remembering Fred with the hat rack. It's very clear that that man had to work that out. There are no tricks going on there. He doesn't hit it with his foot and then you cut to his face and the rack comes in. And I think as an audience watching it, you go, how did he do that? And it's just captivating. Fred Astaire was a wonderful actor in his own way, but Fred always kind of was a little soft in the face. He was always kind of elegant and above it all. He was formal, so you got a totally different attitude from him than you did with Gene Kelly. Gene was effervescent. Gene was like, I'm dancing. Let's go. This is a great number.
Gene Kelly was very athletic, and he had a great strength and power. But what was wonderful about Gene is that he made it very believable. Even in Singing in the Rain, where he runs down the street and gets on top of a trolley car and then jumps into the car of Debbie Reynolds, it looks like there's nothing Gene can't do.
Lady, keep driving. They're after me. Everything's all right. Just keep going.
I'll call the police.
Oh, no, don't do that. Just a few blocks.
Don't hurt me.
Don't worry, I'm not a criminal.
I don't care what you do.
I met Gene one time and I said, how did a guy like you get into dance? He went, the girls. I was there for the girls. He's screaming at you, look at what I can do. Look at my musculature. You never saw musculature like that on a dancer before. He was a big boy. He was a big overgrown teenage boy, you know, and he just There was a youthfulness and a vivaciousness and a playfulness about every routine he ever did.
Remember this one?
And this.
What was wonderful about Judy Garland, she had a great vulnerability and a girl next door quality. So when she would act in these musicals, you really believed that you knew her.
Romeo had Juliet, and Louis XVI had Antoinette, but I ain't got nobody, and nobody's got me.
She was a little bit sensitive and a little bit wounded and smiling over the wound and wanted life to be good. You didn't feel a performer at work. She is a girl you know, and I think people just connected with that.
I was born in Michigan, and I wish and wish again that I was back in the town where I was born.
Some of these people, when you watch them on these movie musicals, look as if they couldn't sing or dance, they would die. And they love it so much. And I think that sort of passion for music and dance has disappeared a little bit, and it would be lovely to bring it back again.
See the stars who shaped the Hollywood musical as our Mad About Musicals celebration continues next here on Turner Classic Movies.
I got hooked on comedy by hearing my dad in the other room laughing at Abbott and Costello movies.
I can't see a thing. Turn it around.
I thought, well, my dad thinks it's good, so I'm going to do it too.
Hey, Cappy, step on it. We're trying to get away from a cop. Oh, yeah?
But, you know, it's very hard to talk about Lou Costello without saying... I don't know what's funnier than Lou Costello.
What's the idea of dropping that hot towel on my face?
I was burning my hands.
Lou Costello was, in my opinion, a comedy genius. Physically and in all ways, a true clown.
Why don't you order another one and make it an even half a dozen?
I don't want to make a pig out of myself.
Of the two of them, I think the more fun thing to be would be Abbott. You know, you get to be in this really funny movie and not have to do all that work.
Take your time. Are you nervous?
Speaking of straight men, Bud Abbott. His part was mostly, one, come on, Lou. It was easy to memorize his lines.
Abbott and Costello were a perfect example of having great timing, mainly because they worked vaudeville circuit for years.
Give me that bill. Give me your hand. Put it in my hand like that and leave it there. Now, take this for here.
There's no awkward pause. It's set up, bam.
That mummy is 4,000 years old.
She looks it.
Set up, bam.
Drafty?
No, not a bit. Do you feel it?
No.
Set up, bam.
You not only messed up our first case, but you proved to the cops that you're a moron.
I did not. They did.
There was a 2.5-minute routine that Abbott and Costello had done with rifles doing a drill bit.
Right shoulder. Arms. I said right shoulder arms. That's your left shoulder.
I'm left-handed.
Get it over.
And it lasted for 2.5 minutes.
Present. Arms. Come on, I don't want it. I don't want it.
You want it?
The director loved it so much that he went into the editing room and took outtakes and stretched it into 5 minutes.
Right face. Forward march. Oh.
And so when they saw it, they were amazed that what they'd been doing for years as a 2.5-minute routine was now 5 minutes. It was even funnier than the way they had done it.
Right face. Right face.
Boy, what a time we had with them three.
I think Costello was such a dunce that you could side with Bud Abbott and laugh at his anger with Costello.
Let him have it. Huh? Let him have it.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And you could side with Costello and laugh at Bud Abbott's completely being unconscious of what he was doing to Lou Costello.
Give me one of those implements.
Here, take your pick.
There.
Wait a minute, hold it. That's a shovel. Here's the pick over here.
Well, I picked the shovel. The shovel is my pick.
Costello couldn't understand what he was saying.
How can a shovel be the pick?
Look, if I'd have wanted to pick, I'd have picked the pick. But instead, I picked the shovel because the shovel is my pick.
I think there were times with Abbott and Costello where you wanted to just say, guys, let me explain it to you both here. And then everything would be fine.
Oh, in other words, you don't want to pick the pick because the pick is a pick and the shovel isn't a pick. If you pick the pick, the shovel isn't a pick. Now you've got it.
In Buck Private Says the Dice Game.
Will you teach me how to play that?
It was one of their best routines.
Will I teach you how to play it?
Well, he claims not to know how to play.
Well, you can win and you can lose. That's fair.
Well, come on, put your money out, and Costello rolls. He says,
Here, 4. A little Joe. Little Joe. Now, wait a minute.
and wait a minute, I thought you didn't know how to play.
Why, did I say something wrong? No, you said it too darn right.
No, he uses the vernacular.
All right, now, what do you want to bet now? Let it ride. Let it ride. Wait a minute.
What? I thought you didn't know how to play.
Well, there was a bunch of boys over in the clubhouse, and they had lumps of sugar, and they was throwing them out, and I heard one of the boys say that. But you didn't play in the game. They wouldn't let me. I was too young. Oh, well, that's different. I didn't. Starting Tuesday, I'm going out with girls. I don't blame you, sure. Well, that's all right.
So he played dumb and turned the tables on Bud Abbott, which is classic comedy.
Abbott and Costello find themselves in one sticky situation after another all day long. Friday, April 15th, beginning at 2:15 p.m. Eastern, part of our April Fool's Comedy Festival on Turner Classic Movies.
The MGM film is state-of-the-art special effects, particularly matte painting, which was brilliantly done throughout the film. The Emerald City painting, for example, had little holes, little pinpoint holes that they could light from behind so that it would appear to glow.
It's beautiful.
I was, I think, about 5, and it was, they were bringing it back. And the thing that I remember most about the movie was when it went from black and white to color.
There's very clever uses of things that had never been done before. The transition from the black and white sepia sequence to Oz, for example. They had to have a double, a stand-in, who was in a sepia-tinted dress to go in, open the door, and if you'll notice, she completely goes out of frame, her place immediately taken by Judy Garland in her Technicolor dress as she walks into Munchkinland.
We went on the set with our costumes and everything. Oh, it was just beautiful. I mean, we saw this yellow brick road, and we saw all the beautiful flowers, and we saw all the little munchkin houses sitting up there, and we went through them, and we saw the little brook that was going by the bridge.
The duck pond, of course, was in the background of where the Good Witch appeared, and originally the little duck pond had a group of little ducklings in it. And what they did to make it look like a real pond, they had put in a bottle of bluing. But unfortunately, the little ducklings absorbed the bluing. So they had to take out the ducklings, dry out the pond, and then they painted the bottom of the pond blue and had someone off camera with a paddle making the waves on it, as you see in the picture.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
My first thoughts of the set that Munchkinland was in was humongous, very, very large. I guess what amazed me more than anything else is all of the power cards running around on the floor.
It was beautiful. All the flowers looked so beautiful, breathtaking. I was wondering how far the yellow brick road went. The road looked like it went 200 miles away, and I noticed it went up to about 150 feet and went up the wall.
The director told one of the prop men to take all of us in to the different studios. And so here we go into this one studio, and here's beautiful fruit trees.
Apples!
I motioned to my roommate. I says, you know, that darn tree made a face at me. He says, you're crazy. There's no such a thing as that.
Ouch!
What do you think you're doing?
We've been walking a long ways, and I was hungry, and... Did you say something?
She was hungry.
She was hungry.
Pretty soon he apologized. He says, I saw the same thing.
Oh, dear. I keep forgetting I'm not in Kansas.
I'm the only child in the audience that always wondered why Dorothy ever wanted to go back to Kansas. Why would she want to go back to Kansas in this dreary black and white farm with an aunt who dressed badly and seemed mean to me?
And then just listen to what Miss Gulch did to Toto. She said, Dorothy, please, we're trying to count.
When she could live with magic shoes, winged monkeys, and gay lions. I never understood it.
Put 'em up, put 'em up!
Say, louder. Louder.
Hey, Doc, where you going?
I'm going to the ear doctor. I'm deaf.
As a teenager, I could count on the fingers of one hand the comedians who made me laugh till I hurt. The Marx Brothers accounted for 3 of those fingers: Groucho, Chico, and Harpo. At the beginning, there were 4 Marx Brothers, but after a few movies, Brother Zeppo noticed he wasn't getting any laughs, and he fired himself and became their agent.
Anything further, Father? Anything further, Father? That can't be right. Isn't it anything farther further?
After laughing my head off watching their movie Monkey Business, I remember checking the newspaper to see if there was another Marx Brother movie playing somewhere in my neighborhood, or if a new one was being filmed. Whatever it was, I couldn't wait to see it.
You know, I'd buy you a parachute if I thought it wouldn't open. Hey, I got parachutes.
Back then, I saw all of their films at least twice for the same dime. Yep, a dime. They didn't kick you out of the theater between screenings. You could stay there all day. I got to know their routines well enough to describe them for my buddies who hadn't seen the movie. And if they had seen it, we'd stay around to discuss which jokes or scenes cracked us up the most.
I can see you right now in the kitchen, bending over a hot stove. But I can't see the stove.
I've been asked which is my favorite scene or gag from their films, and there were so many, but the one that always pops into my head is from Animal Crackers. Groucho, as Captain Spaulding, is dictating a letter to his secretary, who is played by his handsome brother, Zeppo.
You said a lot of things here that I didn't think were important, so I just omitted them.
It's Groucho's behavior and attitude that tickled me, and his reaction to his brother's incompetence that made me roar. It was so unexpected. You see, the Marx Brothers were never weighed down with reality. By calling themselves Groucho, Harpo, and Chico, and wearing the ridiculous suits, each could honestly say, "It's not me being nutty, it's the guy with the puffed cheeks and the blonde wig. It's the guy with the fake mustache and the glasses, not me." By hiding behind the comic personalities, they would do anything within reason to get a laugh. Or without reason.
The country's taxes must be fixed, and I know what to do with it. If you think you're paying too much now, just wait till I get through with it.
Groucho was the perfect Depression-era comic.
There are many bonds that will hold us together through eternity.
Really, Wolf? What are they?
Your government bonds, your savings bonds, your liberty bonds.
People were down on their luck, and there was nothing they liked more than seeing the rich folks get their hats knocked off. And Groucho did that for them. Groucho could say the things a lot of people would like to say but couldn't. He got away with being a little mean. You know why? He was funny.
Do you rumba?
Well, yes, of course I do.
Well, take a rumba from 1 to 10.
He did that thing where his eyes shot to the side and he moved his eyebrows up and down, up and down. You couldn't help liking him.
I don't know what they have to say. It makes no difference anyway. Whatever it is, I'm against it. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.
Then there was Harpo, a brilliant pantomimist. Without saying a word, he spoke volumes, funny volumes. He was a physical comedian and loved being one. The wits, without raising a sweat, have always been applauded and revered. But the great physical clowns like Harpo, and there haven't been many like him, always manage to get their fair share of laughs. And more than their fair share of bruises. And my man Chico. Chico spoke with a mock Italian accent.
You got everything ready, huh? The shovel, the axe, the dynamite, the pineapples?
Accents were the stock and trade of many vaudeville comedians. There were Dutch, Irish, Scottish, and Jewish accents used by comedians who were first or second generation immigrants. They were making fun of themselves and the other greenhorns who didn't speak as well as they did.
Well, you see, we come here to make money. I read the paper and say, big boom in Florida, so we come. We're a couple of big booms, too.
Politically incorrect? I would say so. But none of the other Marx brothers worried about that, so why should Chico?
Any resemblance between these two characters and living persons is purely accidental.
I think there are three reasons why the Marx brothers were successful. First, they were brothers who had been performing together since they were kids. They also had a special connection to comedy. They had an uncle, Al Sheen, who was part of the comedy vaudeville team of Gallagher and Sheen. So genetically and environmentally, they shared a sense of what was funny.
I love good music. So do I. Let's get out of here. Sit down.
Second, talent. The Marx brothers had many talents. Music, for instance. They were all schooled musicians. Their mother Minnie saw to that. They all loved music, and you see it in their movies. When a song comes up, everything stops. The music is treated with respect. You see it in their faces. It's an added dimension. But once the music was over, you knew they would immediately go back to being crazy again. And the third thing, I think, is the key to the Marx brothers' success: showmanship, a sense of pace and variety. They came from vaudeville, and their movies are like a vaudeville show. Comedy, then music, then a stunt, then a song, then a monologue. You name it, they got it.
Let there be wine.
And women.
And a song.
And women.
And a caviar.
And women.
So do yourself a favor. Watch. Watch the Marx brothers and try not to laugh. I predict you'll fail. It's like Groucho said. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Cry and you're probably watching the wrong channel. So stay tuned and laugh.
Hello? I must be going. I cannot stay. I
For
came
Turner
to
Classic
stay. I must
Movies,
be going.
I'm Carl
I
Reiner.
must be
For me to talk about Billy Wilder is a complete pleasure because he is one of the most fascinating and certainly most intelligent people that I have ever known. He's given us all a lifetime of joy and insight into human behavior with a major body of work that I think is probably unequaled by any other filmmaker.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
I say filmmaker rather than writer-director because a filmmaker is able to keep the whole film in his mind as the writer conceived it, while directing the individual scenes so that they fit into the mosaic perfectly. And Billy Wilder has done that over and over again for decades.
You knew it was the housekeeper's day off?
Well, yes, I did.
So you went there because you knew she'd be alone?
No, I went there because I thought she might be lonely.
All right, lonely. You and the rich, lonely widow all alone in that lonely house?
No, when I left her, she was alive.
When the housekeeper came back, she was dead.
Billy's own view is that he's primarily a writer and secondarily a director. Having done 7 films with him, I can most certainly say that the level of his writing is extraordinary. And not once in the shooting of those films did I ever hear an actor ever asked to change one word in the script.
If you say that your back is killing you, they can't prove it isn't. That's what we call pain and suffering. And the money you get for that is tax-free.
What pain? What suffering?
Never can tell about a back injury. You may think you're all right, but 6 months from now, you suddenly start having dizzy spells, muscle spasms, sciatica. You can't work anymore. Then try to collect.
There's nothing wrong with my back. If you just get off it.
I learned something from Billy about really good writing, and that is that often it's not what you write, it's what you don't write.
May I help you? How many would you like?
Of course, the astounding thing is the range of Billy's writing, from Stalag 17 with uncompromising drama,
Why don't you try it one at a time?
to Some Like It Hot, the broadest kind of farce.
What's the matter now?
How do they walk in these things, huh? How do they keep their balance?
Must be the way the weight is distributed. Now, come on.
It's interesting that when Billy and I were shooting Some Like It Hot and then a year later The Apartment, the general feeling in Hollywood was that Billy was nuts and neither one of the films would work. In Some Like It Hot, he had Tony Curtis and me in drag for 85% of the picture, and the premise was really just a 5-minute burlesque sketch stretched to 2 hours. But Billy sensed it would work, and he was right. It became a classic.
Now you've done it. Now you have done it.
Done what?
You tore off one of my chests.
In The Apartment, Billy was throwing darts at the behavior of American businessmen. His leading man was loaning out his apartment for assignations in order to get ahead in business.
That's good thinking, Baxter.
And his leading lady was sleeping with her married boss. Who were you supposed to root for?
What do you call it when somebody keeps getting smashed up in automobile accidents?
Bad insurance risk?
It's me with men.
Of course, Billy wrote a wonderful love story at the center of all this unpleasantness, much like growing a rose in a garbage pail. And in the process, he won 3 of his 7 Academy Awards. But at the time we made the film, I doubted that it could have been financed and made even a few years earlier. In other words, Billy has not only kept up with the changing morality of the times throughout his career, he has often anticipated and caused those changes.
Oops.
You know, that dress dummy don't do you justice, even with all the padding.
Well, I suppose I've put on a few pounds.
Well, don't you worry about it. As far as I'm concerned, there couldn't be enough of you. Baby.
I've been close to Billy for over 35 years, and I have never spent 30 seconds with him that were dull. He's brought an enormous amount of joy and happiness to all those fortunate enough to work with him. He's the one person who has had the most profound influence on my professional life, and as my dear friend, a very deep influence on my personal life also.
I love you, Miss Kubelik. Did you hear what I said, Miss Kubelik? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and deal.
Billy once said a wonderful thing to me. He said, "Remember, you are as good as the best thing you've ever done." If that's true, then Billy Wilder is as good as some of the best films that this world has ever seen. To be with and to work with Billy Wilder is sheer bliss. He is the most extraordinary man I have ever known. I'm Jack Lemmon for Turner Classic Movies.